Ahoy VC, welcome to the Personal Oasis. This is the Blind Island. I'm your host, Isaac, and today I am joined by the wonderful, miraculous queen of country, Marichen Lehman.
I love that queen of country bit. Man, I didn't think that inside joke would get as much attention as it has.
I think it's hilarious. I think it's really funny. The fact that
I never pictured myself as a country person. Like, living in the South, everyone just assumes you like country. And I really never have. Like, I like classic country mainly. But recently, because of the youngest members of the VC group chat, Mike just talks about so many different types of music. And so it's gotten me on like a country kick. And I've bought so many country records, probably more than I've ever bought in the past like years I've been collecting. And so it's kind of spiraled into this big inside joke now. So,
well, it's fantastic. And also, like, I think that a lot of people have misconceptions about country initially, but if it's more traditional based, and there are lots of really great contemporary artists right now that are coming out with some solid stuff. But if you're listening to like Luke Bryant and like,
oh my God, Sam Hunt is the worst. One of my best friends loves him, and I'm just like, this is like pop music with a little bit of country thrown in there.
Exactly. I call it, pandering country, because it's like, I got blue jeans and I go on a tractor and that makes me country.
Yeah. There's one song, and it's like, I think it's called House Party, I think is the name of it, by Sam Hunt, and she loves that song. I'm like, girl, this is not country. What country person that has like a house party like he's describing? People in the country have bonfires. Like, come on.
Exactly. They go on hay rides.
Yeah. Like, come on. We live in Kentucky. We know what it's like out in the country. A lot of them, like a lot of the new artists too, are just like from big cities, like up north or something, like New York or LA or something like that. They're not even from like the country, so they don't really understand it either.
What are you talking about? Keith Urban is as country as it gets.
I like classic country. My grandparents listen to it a lot. So like I have more of a connection with it than I do like the modern stuff. And then my best friend loves the modern country stuff. It's just
I definitely, if I'm gonna listen to country, it's definitely gonna be more traditional sounding, that's for sure. Just, have you listened much to the Leuven brothers?
No, but I've heard of them. I'm pretty sure I've probably heard them at some point growing up too.
I would highly recommend the album Satan is Real. It is so good. And it's like one of my top grails, super hard to come across, but phenomenal, like gospel soaked, I'm hellfire, trembling on my knees sort of country. Really good.
I will definitely have to check that out, though. That's intriguing.
Oh, yeah. And once you see the cover, you're going to be like, this is great. You don't even need to listen to the music. You just need to see the cover, and you're like, yeah.
Of course, hey, there are some covers that draw you in and just really get you interested in an album.
So today I have Marichen here because we are going to be doing a joint review of one of Marichen's favorite bands, actually. And that is, if you can believe, Your Eyes and Ears, the Mamas and the Papas. So, I know that you have mentioned them multiple times on your channel, and it's an album I've been wanting to, dive a little deeper into and do a review, and I thought this would be a great opportunity to pair up and see your thoughts too on this.
My mom actually got me into these guys. My mom's not a big music buff or anything, so it's kind of weird how I got into music, because neither of my parents are like a music junkie like I am. They just have these people that they love and they casually listen to. And the Mamas and the Papas happen to be that for my mom. And I was maybe like 7 or 8, and I got in the car and she was playing this greatest hits CD, and the song was like Creek Alley. And I was just like, what is this? And my mom immediately described it as hippie music. And like now that I'm more into music, I'm like, man, that's really generic and not a good way to describe it. But yeah, I loved them from the moment I heard them. So I've been listening to them for a while.
That's awesome. Yeah, I only really knew California Dreamin', Monday, the big hits that are both on this record. But then when I bought this, I think I bought it like for $1, like at a Goodwill. And when I listened to it, I was blown away by the depth that I found. I was not expecting that, and just how magical and wistful it all sounded. So that's like my background with the band. It's only been for the past couple of years, really, that I've been seeking out their discography and, listening more to it. But as I would definitely say that maybe you have a differing opinion, but I say that this was their first best album. And then everything kind of slowly, very, very slowly started to go downhill.
Yeah, I kind of agree. But like, to me, it's noticeable because of the way things were between the band. So with this album, things were kind of already getting on the rocks, and then the more you go into the history, the worse things get between everybody in the band. So then by the time you get to their last album, they're falling apart. And to make what they did out of it, I really think they did a good job considering everything going on inside the group. But yeah, this album is definitely my favorite. It's
which I think is interesting because Fleetwood Mac, thrived on the descent and the tension and created the pop gems. But it was really when they were all in harmony that they made their best music. It's just interesting how that some bands thrive in harsh conditions and others just don't. It's really, really weird. And these marriages and bands, they're poison.
They don't work. They never work. I don't, something's just going to go wrong with it. And I mean, I kind of see everyone's side in, everything. But ultimately, I do think it was best that they kind of went their separate ways.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Cass's solo career. I know more about her than I do any of the other members. I'm just going to throw that out there for anyone who's like a super, super fan of the Mamas and the Papas, because obviously this is way before my time. But yeah, I loved her solo work, and it was such a shame that she passed away so young. I just can only imagine the things she would have done if she didn't pass away. So,
well, I think about that too, and also the fact that everyone came from where they wound up sounding like to their roots and being just traditional acoustic folk music. Like John Phillips actually had a really hard time, the lead singer, I guess, had a really hard time getting away from that sound. And then when he did his own solo work, it's actually a really good album. I think it's called The Wolf of California. I can't remember. He's wearing an awesome hat. That's all I know.
Yeah, I know the album you're talking about, but I don't know it well enough.
Yeah, but it definitely has a lot more of those folk elements brought back into it than what would be found here. So, yeah, just interesting background information on these guys. They are a lot more tumultuous than their music would lead you to believe. That's for sure.
Yeah, I remember when I first really got into them and really listened to them, I was like, man, these guys are just so happy and fun. And then when I really started to learn about them as a band, I was like, whoa, that's going on behind closed doors? What the heck? You just wouldn't expect good music to come from what the group was.
Yeah, for sure. Well, now that we've talked a little bit about some background information, give me your thoughts, feelings, observations on the music itself.
Oh, gosh. This album, honestly, is just amazing. I cannot say enough good things about it. It is probably one of my favorite albums of all time. If I had to pick, everyone's been doing those favorite albums, top 100 list. I could never do that because I say everything's my favorite. especially if I love it. But this album is just full of amazing songs. The deep cuts on here that people don't really mention a lot, I feel like really shine through, and even are some of the best tracks on here. The hits are great, but I feel like it's really the deep cuts that make this album just amazing, because those are some of my favorites on here, but there's really honestly like not a bad song on this copy. I bought this when I first started collecting, and it has lasted me a long time. I've played it probably more than I've played most of my records. This is one of my most played for sure, and it's pretty nice considering I've played it so many times. I mean, it's just a great like folky pop album. I mean, you have like some of the traditional folk kind of stuff in there, but it's really masked by the time of the album. You know, you can really hear a lot of the 60s influence in it. And I just think it's a really solid piece of work. I know John did a lot of the lyrics for this and wrote a lot of the songs. And they're all basically like done on his personal experiences, which is really cool. Because a lot of people do that, but you don't really, I guess, think about it until you talk about, you know, this song was about a personal experience that I had or whatever. And he actually wrote California Dreamin' about Michelle, which they went to the Caribbean to, you know, come together and become a band and really form their sound. And then when they come back to New York, of course, it's cold and gloomy, and she was just dreaming of like warm, sunny weather and wanting to get back. So then he kind of wrote California Dreamin' as an ode to that, and then they end up going out to California and regrouping and signing a deal.
Wow.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that story, so that's cool.
It was on this interview that I watched. Like years later, they come back and did an interview with the three remaining members. Obviously, Beth Elliott had passed away at this time, but John was talking about that. He talked about he wrote a lot of the songs and stuff on here from his personal experience. And when Denny and Michelle kind of got together and went through that phase, he wrote "I Saw Her Again Last Night" as a punishment to Denny to kind of, you know, make him sing those lyrics and be like, yeah, you sleeping with my girl? Here, you're going to sing about it. So I always thought that was kind of fun that they, you know, could still sing about the bad experiences going on.
Right, for sure. No, I'm with you too, that this album, I don't have as long of a history with this record. If anything, when I first like reappraised it, rediscovered it, like the big hits are just so ubiquitous. Like they're everywhere, and so many soundtracks, so many television shows, that almost is like a nursery rhyme in the back of your head, and you kind of stop understanding just how great those tunes are. You're just like, everybody knows that, that's fine. But then I completely agree that I think the deep cuts on here are where you start to see like their true artistry. Their version of Spanish Harlem is so beautiful. Oh my gosh, that's where like those folk leanings came in, but the lush orchestration that's behind them and the harmonies, fantastic. And then Straight Shooter is so much fun. It's, yeah, like they're really reveling in the excess of LA at that time. And and then by appreciating the deep cuts, it actually allowed me to go back and reevaluate those big hits. Be like, man, this was huge for folk rock. Like, I mean, it was coming out around the same time as Simon and Garfunkel and Bob Dylan. I mean, Mamas and Papas were really at the vanguard of the whole folk rock movement. So, yeah, it definitely made me come to appreciate the group and this album as a whole after listening to the whole thing. That's for sure. I mean, there really isn't a sour note in this record, like from my ears. A good way would be like crystalline and sugary. It's just like, I just want to eat it. Just want to keep on having it come into my ears.
I mean, it's such a good album. There's honestly not a moment on here that I don't love. And for an album to be a perfect, flawless album for me, it really takes a lot. because even though I do have a lot of favorites, I can admit that they're not perfect. But this is one of the albums I feel like is absolutely perfect.
Yeah. There really isn't, like, sometimes when bands start off, I feel like there's a lot of disparate sounds going on, and they don't have a fully formed idea. But it sounds as though they practiced and practiced and practiced what was going to be on this record before they recorded it, and you can really tell because it completely flows. And while it's not like one of the great thematic or concept albums, it's just a great record, like a great album in general. I am 100% with you. It's like, it's perfect. There's really not anything you can say bad against it. But like, what are some of your favorite tracks on here?
Oh my gosh. Go Where You Want to Go has always been like one of my favorites, and nobody ever talks about it. But it is such a beautiful song. One of my absolute favorites. Of course, you have like Monday, Monday, and California Dreamin' on here, which are the bigger songs. Straight Shooter is kind of a bigger song, not like super popular, but still feel like a lot of people know it. Somebody Groovy, one of my all-time favorites on here. It is like probably in my top 10 of their songs in general. It's just such a beautiful song. And then I love Spanish Harlem. It's just so pretty, and it's dreamy. It's delicate. And this. There's really not a bad song on this album, so it pains me to pick favorites.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are probably some of my favorites.
Yeah, you could make the case that you could suggest any song to anybody, and you could probably find something to love. I mentioned a few of my favorites, but I also really love the song In Crowd. I think that is Cass singing lead vocal in that?
Yeah,
I think
so.
Because
She does a lot of the female parts. She has like the really nice, deep, beautiful vocals. Yeah.
She is ripping it on that song. Holy cow. Yeah. Really, really good.
Michelle, she doesn't really get her moments, I feel like. She's kind of more melody and harmony. She doesn't really get her moments. But what's really funny is that John didn't want Cass in the band at first.
Yeah.
And then after a night when they were in the Caribbean, apparently she got hit on the head while she was waiting tables and singing along. And they took her to the hospital, and when she was waiting tables the next night and singing along, like something clicked for him, and he thought that her knocking her head like changed her voice, which is like the weirdest thing ever. But to think that she almost wasn't in the band, it's just so crazy to me because her voice just fits so perfectly. It meshes with everybody. So
it really does. And I know that they were afraid of how like she was going to be on a cover, because she wasn't, cover pretty. And that's something I really miss about music from this time period. Like from the 60s to 80s, I could say, you could make the argument that people who weren't, TV pretty could make albums. And I mean, to an extent, it was still taken into consideration, like how they looked. But like, if they had the goods, it didn't matter. They just delivered. And man, Cass, I think she went on to be the most successful out of all the people here.
She did. Yeah, I don't really think Michelle did anything. I think Denny may have done something like a little bit, but I don't really follow his. I know John did like have his own little career. But I think Cass was definitely the most successful after the Mamas and the Papas because they, were in bands before the Mamas and the Papas. So, but yeah, I definitely think she was the most successful. And if you've not listened to her solo stuff, I really, really recommend it. Her self-titled album is hands down my favorite from her. It's just absolutely gorgeous.
I've definitely been seeking out that self-titled in decent shape. I don't want to get it like if it's all beat up. I've seen a couple of copies, but they're usually played to hell. And I mean, it makes sense. It's a very beautiful record. So I think that we both are in, we can agree that the rating here is a 5 out of 5, though.
No, hands down, for sure.
It's a perfect record, and I would recommend it to anybody. And if you're not giving it a chance just based off of like, oh, well, I've heard the big hits, I don't need to listen to it, and don't be like me. Listen to the music. Oh, there's my cat. Our cat.
It is one of the greatest albums. I really, really do recommend it. If you don't listen to like anything else they've done, this is the one thing I would recommend.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, that's my thoughts. Marichen, do you have anything else to add to the review?
No, I think that's it. Yeah.
Milford, do you have anything you want to add to the review? I don't think so.
She says, I'm hungry. I need food. Come upstairs and feed me.
All right. Well, thank you again so much for joining me in this review. It was really, really appreciated.
Thank you for having me.
Well, of course. This was an awesome discussion. And guys, let us know what your thoughts are. Let us know in the comments below. What do you think of Mamas and the Papas? And as always, I hope that everyone has a great day on their own personal oasis. Cheers.
Bye.
All right.